It's a start. And hello, my party ghouls and goblins and all our fans in Internet land and beyond. I'm your host, David Estacado, and we're here with another NRW review for all our fans. Another spooky review that we have going on here, Rob. This, I think, is video number 4 or 5 that we have going on now.
I've been
watching so many freaking videos and movies lately throughout this whole spooktacular season, and I've been having a blast with these, man. I really have.
I have been for the most part too. It's definitely been one of our busier months here for the amount of reviews that we're doing. So I'm actually was really excited for that as well. So as you can see, we're from the little man in the background there that you see behind David. We are going to be doing a review for us a Halloween classic for me. I've seen this movie since I was a kid. I've seen it in a number of years, but I still happen to enjoy it just as much as I did as a kid. But we'll get into our thoughts with that. So this is for the film Ernest Scared Stupid. Now, we'll get into our thoughts, but let's roll the trailer here real quick.
Roll it.
From Touchstone Pictures, monstrous trolls have sprung to life.
I sure hope you're from Cleveland.
And now Ernest P. Worrell is springing into action. He'll try anything.
I know Tai Chi Kung Fu, chow mein.
And everything.
Your shoes untied.
To save the day.
It's showtime.
It's Ernest P. Worrell in a brand new movie. Ernest Scared Stupid.
How about a bumper sandwich, booger lips? Know what I mean?
Starts Friday, October 11th at a theater near you.
And there you have it, a classic, Ernest Scared Stupid, and I think this is Jim Varney at his best. The only other movie I like over this, close to this one, or just as much, is Ernest Goes to Jail. But this is just Jim Varney at his best.
Yeah.
Here, the physicality, the comedy, fantastic. And I really enjoyed this movie growing up as a kid. And even watching it in the now, it was still an enjoyable movie. Yes, it has its flaws, and yes, it's a very campy and a little stupid movie, some of the humor, but it still catches laughs and giggles for me throughout when I'm watching it.
So what was I'm curious to find out for you, your first introduction of this character. What was the first one that you came across for this character in Ernest?
The commercials were first, and then like I enjoyed Ernest Goes to Camp, because he started off as like the spoof for his commercials at first, and that's when I first knew him. And then like I was excited to see every new commercial he had, and then when I figured out it sounded like they were doing movies and shows and stuff, that's when I really got into him too. There was like these little vignettes, these little mini movies or whatever that he'd have, or like mini like shorts that he would have. And then later on, I think it was from Ernest, I started catching on from Ernest Goes to Camp and then on.
Oh, okay. I think this was actually my first film that I saw of him where I was really interested. I came across it, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, through like TBS or something, way back in like the mid to early 90s, I think. And this was the film that I saw. I was like, holy shit, it was really fun, because to me, this was like a live action cartoon, because some of the gags that occur in this film, especially with Ernest, where he's setting up all these contraptions and whatever else he has working on his dumpster truck that he operates in this movie. It reminded me of a cartoon. And even now watching it as an adult, it's some of the charm of the film where you see those gags being played out, for me, still works. I know it's very dated and it's kind of obvious it's not a very good movie, but if I hadn't seen this as a kid, I don't know if I would have the same nostalgic behind it, or I actually still enjoy the film for what it is. But I still very much got a kick out of it. But so we're getting into the film now. Let's get into the plot real quick, because I'm sure the trailer does a pretty good job in establishing the whole plot. But we have this demon troll who, back in the late 1800s, is grabbing kids, turning them into woods, like these little miniaturized statues, for the purpose of like releasing their powers, I think. And then
releasing his like troll minions or whatever. But
right, okay. And then you have the townsfolk in this particular town where it takes place, I think, in some place in Missouri, if I'm not mistaken. I forgot the name of the town, but at any rate, you have to capture this troll, and then Ernest's great grandfather, Phineas, is this troll underneath this oak tree and seals it, and then as a result, the troll then curses Ernest's family, whose last name is Whirl. So starting with Phineas and then all the generations coming after that, they'll curse is pretty much like they're going to be dumber and dumber and dumber, and then we get Ernest, who is the catalyst that that eventually releases this troll the day before Halloween was the only day that he's able to come back out, and then all hell breaks loose, more or less. And that's pretty much the whole plot there. Now they have to pretty much get this troll back and destroy him, and that's the overall plot. But it's not a very difficult story to follow. As a kid, for some reason, I couldn't really comprehend that story. I just didn't understand what the hell was going on. All I just knew that I just liked the gags. Ernest was funny, and the kids get to have these cool tree houses, and they have all these little gadgets set up at the tree house, which I thought was phenomenal at the time as a kid. Anything else you want to get into before we start really digging deep into this review?
No, I mean, that's it. That's pretty much the plot. There are parts in the plot that make no freaking sense whatsoever. The whole movie could have been avoided if you just didn't tell Ernest what to really say. And then we wouldn't have a movie. So, I mean, Deus Ex Machina. It just works.
Well, let's talk about some of the flaws here, because upon watching this film again for this review, there was a shit ton of them that I saw. And as a kid, I didn't notice him for obvious reasons, but now as an adult, I'm like, holy Christ! If I happen to watch this film for the very first time, I probably would have never had that sense of that sentiment that I have towards it now, because I have a lot of great memories with this movie. So there's a lot of that factors in for me here. Any particular flaws you want to get into first that sticks out for you?
There are little things here and there. There's some plot holes with the whole tree and everything. Like, why would you tell Ernest the words to summon this troll? The whole, when they figured everything out, it was pretty obvious milk was the answer. But it set up a gag later on, which it worked because it's Ernest. I mean. I just
thought that was funny.
Yeah, it was.
I remember as a kid, I wondered, is that even a real thing, MIAC? Because I just didn't. I don't know if it is not. I forgot if I ever looked into it. But I just thought that was the dumbest thing in the world. But it worked. And for me, I thought it was hilarious. And then he actually shows up with an actual jar of MIAC. Well, that was funny.
A little more Eartha Kitt. Show's just there and then just leaves and comes back. Like, not really that much flaws. Just the plot was kind of weird. I think for me it was like in the beginning of the movie, they catch this troll with a net, and then they're able to seal him. And then later on, like in the modern times, they're having so much difficulty with capturing this thing, which I was like, it just didn't make any sense. But again, like for the movie wise, I guess it made sense, but like, really, you caught it with a net last time, and now you're having trouble catching it.
Well, you'd figure that the kids, when they had the treehouse built at that oak tree where the troll was buried, who Ernest helped put together, fort, if you will, and they were able to build guns and just all these different contraptions. Like, I was like, how in the hell they stuff. But as a kid, I
staple of the '90s during that time. Like every movie or kid movie, there was like a treehouse.
Yeah, they were throwing pizza at the bullies who were. Yeah, they're throwing pizza at them. They're throwing like other food and other condiments. And I was like, how the hell are they doing all this stuff here? And I mean, as a kid, I thought, well, this is fantastic. As an adult, I'm watching, I was like, God, you guys are wasting all this, delicious food, and you're wasting on these bullies here. Couldn't you find something else to throw at them besides food? Like, there's little stuff like that. I mean, maybe that's just a parent in me thinking about that.
Pick up on that, like watching now, because we're reviewing movies, we review stuff. We like to break shit apart when it comes to this stuff in a movie.
Yeah,
and you can really break this movie apart and really break it down.
Yeah.
But there's one scene in particular that I really like. It makes me laugh every single time because I see it now, and I wasn't made aware of it until a couple viewings in. Is the trash can, the trash compactor scene? You literally see somebody push.
Oh, yeah.
You push them out of the freaking compactor. It's like, there you go.
Yeah.
Like you see like the stagehand or whatever with with something poking him off with it, and I thought that was hilarious, and I still catch it every single time now. It's freaking hilarious. But I mean, besides that, it's an enjoyable movie. It really is, and a lot of it has to do with Jim Varney.
Any other flaws that sticks out besides some of those other gags that you mentioned there? Is like anything in particular about the acting? Because there's for me some of the acting's like it's a little
It was
wonky, but
really hammy, yeah.
yeah,
Especially some of the kids.
yeah,
Eartha Kitt was great though because she was on par with Jim
with
Varney.
Jim Varney, yeah,
So he was going crazy, and she was going to the top, and then he was
yeah.
going.
But it fit for this type of film, though,
Yeah.
because that was the thing that I was concerned about. Because I remember, oh, that's right, Eartha Kitt's in this movie, and I thought that how dare you? And she kind of reminded me of a witch, and I just thought that performance would kind of take me out of it. But no, they were actually some of the best people. That's in the positive that I know we're going to get into here. But
besides that, no, like the practical effects were great. There were a couple of times where like you could tell they were very stiff, and they weren't moving or whatever. And side note, if you didn't know, because I know you're a big Killer Clowns from Outer Space fan, I know you love that movie.
Yeah.
Some of those trolls, if you look closely, they're repurposed clowns from that movie, repainted.
Yeah, I remember watching the special features for that film, and they mentioned that those clown costumes were ended up being reused again for this movie. But I had forgotten about that, but until you brought that up to me prior to recording. So yeah, that is true, which is a little interesting side note, but I don't think most of the public would care to know that. But for someone like ourselves that look at watch those movies, and when you look back at it now, I'm like, oh, I can see the nose, I can see the cheek.
Yeah,
it makes sense. They just added all the hair and painting it all, so it worked really well. And clearly, this film, which had a very low budget, you can tell right off the bat, it was just not a very high budgeted film. I think it cost easily under $10 million. But for me, they used the money pretty well throughout the production of the movie. But one of the things I want to get into as far as the negative, because a lot of things you got into, I felt the same way too. I felt as if though maybe I get this is just me personally, and every time I watch these movies as a kid, and then I'm looking at it now. As a parent, the kids are doing a lot of crazy stuff where they're walking up with an adult in the woods. There's a lot of those little parental guidance that I'm thinking like I would never let my kid walk in the woods with an adult. No offense to Ernest, I'm sure obviously we know Ernest is a well-meaning person. Things like that. What's another thing? The kid walking around late at night, and the parents like, I don't know, I thought he was looking for you. I was like, you fucking serious? You mean to tell me you just couldn't like walk with your kid and look for their dad with them and just little stuff like that? Like I remember that bothered me for some reason. It didn't bother me as a kid. I just thought that was cool. But watching as an adult now, as a parent, I'm watching like, God damn, these parents are irresponsible. Just the little things like that for some reason bother me.
It's funny that you mentioned that because like, as a kid, there's certain scenes in this movie that are actually pretty creepy, really atmospheric wise, and especially with the makeup and the creature effects with the troll. The troll looks disgusting. It's gross. It's a creepy looking monster. There's a scene in particular where like the girl character, you could tell they're already fucking setting up for a fucking jump scare. And she rolls over, and the troll is there. Mm-hmm. And she screams at the top of her lungs, and then it just goes to the next.
You mean you screamed at the top of your lungs?
No, she did. Like, hold on. You mean to tell me that this girl is screaming at the top of her lungs because of a troll, and the parents don't come looking for her like after
right? Especially if they were just there like 5 seconds ago. Yeah, little things like that. Oh, and another thing too that so the troll turns these kids into wooden statues, and they start off really large, and then he minimizes them to fit in some shelf somewhere in that tree. And when the kids discover that is missing, our friend is missing, and they go somehow across this little place where the troll is keeping all those wooden figures, and they're like, "Oh, that's where the kid's friend's name is." And I was like, "You mean to tell me you just knew right away that by looking at that sculpture and this wooden figure here that's your friend, and that's your friend who was turned into like." How the hell did you know that? Like that, things like that. I just remember things sticking out to me. It's like that just doesn't make any sense. But I mean, like I said, it worked for the film because
it worked. And like as a kid, you just like, oh yeah, I would know. Like that's my buddy. Like oh no. Like,
but as a kid, I know for a fact I would have been too stupid to know. Like oh, hey, that looks like that looks like you, David. But someone must really think you're worth to put it into a statue here and kept you on the shelf, and I would have never looked. I would have been like, "Hey, have you seen Steve? I don't know where he's at." Well, never crossed my mind that, hey, someone just turned you into a wooden statue. So I just thought that was kind of like a
Cheesy. It
a,
was
a
cheesy as
sticking
fuck.
point for me. It
Yeah.
was cheesy, and here's the thing: as much as I found certain things annoying, but oddly enough, I actually enjoyed that. I was like, God damn, these kids are like super smart, but and the parents can't figure that shit out. Like just
Yeah.
things like that. I actually enjoyed poking fun at it, but I also
Yes,
enjoyed the nostalgia factor that came with that because, like you said before, it's a very charming movie. So I guess we've the negatives here. So let's start rolling into the positives. Because I found a lot of great things that I really loved the film. You mentioned about the makeup, this practical effects with the trolls in the films. I thought they were I thought they
great.
worked really well, and
It was stiff. It was stiff.
I thought so too. Yeah,
But they were because like I think only the troll, the actual main troll, was able to move and it was animatronic and everything, and
yeah.
they were able to make it like really just gross and slimy. The other ones you could tell they were repurposed, but because they're kind of like just whatever, moving around with no real facial expressions.
Real
But it makes it
thick,
even
yeah.
funnier though. Especially when they start like shooting them on milk and stuff. And yeah, you know what? That's a good point. It was kind of gory in a way. It was great because
It definitely had some elements. Yeah,
once they got with the milk, they disintegrate into these like nasty goo of like body parts, which I thought was kind of real cool practical effects that they use. I guess for a kids film, that was somewhat gory and like gross.
Surprisingly, you definitely did bring up a good point there, and a lot of the atmospheric tension that you have with the kids walking at night. I think they did a pretty good job establishing that, especially that one particular scene that you mentioned about the young girl who was in her bed. She, the most stereotypical trope of a horror film. The bed, there's no trolls in her the bed, sweetheart. And all of a sudden she turns around, the trolls right there. That was actually pretty good. I remember as a kid, I thought, holy shit, But I thought they did a really good job using the atmosphere and setting up certain scares that were done very well, I thought. And I also have to admit that the comedy in this movie, albeit that you have a grown up in Jim Varney playing Ernest, who is doing a lot of dumb shit, it didn't deter my enjoyment because I actually enjoyed this character because he's so authentic to the community and everyone knows he's an idiot, but the very same person that bullied him, he would help them out as well too. So you felt that connection. Like to me, I'm not trying to make this comparison to another character, but whereas I kind of liken it to Rocky, where Rocky is this really genuine guy, and the that bully him, he'll always help them out. And this is kind of the same vibe that I got with Ernest here, and you can clearly see that throughout the film, where people don't like him, don't him, but he goes out his way to help save the town. And that was a very respectable characteristic of this character that I truly admire, and it's one of the reasons why I enjoy his films, because it's very consistent when it comes to that. And I mentioned before that we have Jim. We talked about it, that Jim Varney plays a variety of different characters in terms of like storytelling, and I thought that worked very well in the film. You have a different
like different personalities and stuff throughout the film. Like in the middle of the film, that it plays off later on in the later film. Eartha Kitt is phenomenal.
She's great.
She's really great in this film. She plays like the crazy witch cat lady. And she does such a great job with it because she's like matches Jim Varney beat for beat. Like he goes over the top, she goes just as over the top.
Yeah,
she was it was nice to see her in this film.
What did you think of the kids though in the movie? I'm talking about the overall cast of kids. What did you think did you think they did pretty well? Because for me, you could tell some of the actors. That girl, the girl kisses a boy. He's like, I was like, that's some of the worst acting I've ever seen in my life. But it was charming. As you could see.
I don't think you really saw it coming. I don't think it was scripted. I think it just happened, and he's kind of like, what?
Not bad. It looked a little too obvious to me. Maybe that's just me, of course. But I also
it's scammy, kind of hammy, but
yeah, I thought so too. But I also like some of the other supporting characters. You have the two brothers who have this business. Yeah, pretty much, and they have the little gags as well too. They kind of it's sort of in a weird way was kind of like a reminiscent of like Abbott and Costello, kind of a Three Stooges type of feel. Not so much Three Stooges, but it kind of had that element of like you have the one talking character and the one silent character, so kind of a Penn and Teller type of feel to it. Even in some cases, I'm not sure if Jay and Silent Bob ever took inspirations from these two guys. I doubt it, but you could see a lot of the similarities in that regard, minus all the drugs and the cussing. But that I thought worked very effectively in this movie, and I mean, the overall cast for me, I thought was pretty good. The dialogue, for the most part, I thought was fitting, given the type of film that it is. This is what I liked about the movie. I'm going to say this here is that it doesn't take itself too seriously, and when it has those emotional beats, which is not a whole lot of, but when they do have those effective moments, they do a really good job, especially towards the end where you have Ernest is revealed that you got to show this troll some love. That is his weakest point, and then that actually turned out to be one of the most charming scenes in the film, where he's giving it a big kiss. It was so dumb, but I was like, wow, this actually really does work. And it's credit to Jim Varney putting on a wonderful performance, where it's a very genuine, come here, just that I was like, holy Christ! But if
the physicality, the voice,
I loved it.
Like how genuine he was with giving this troll affection.
I loved it. I thought it was very. I thought it worked effective. Maybe not for everyone else, but for me personally, watching, I was like, you know what, this still holds up. It
makes funny that you bring that up, because it brings about one flaw scene that made no sense to me, because that's where they got the whole conditional love part. Whereas there's like a mother and a kid or daughter or something going trick-or-treating, and Eartha Kitt's seeing this. And the kid's being a little brat and telling her mom, shut up, mom, blah, blah, something like that. And just like, I'm sorry. I'm like, wait, what? No, that's not unconditional. What the hell is that? You're being a little brat. Like, really? And Eartha Kitt's like, that's what it is. Unconditional love. Like...
I think the mother is just basically looking past the kid's brattiness and just love who he is no matter what. And I think that's really what it was that made her real. Oh, I know what it's got to be. What's going to destroy this troll? Love. And I was like, holy Christ. But it worked. I know what you're coming from, and I have to agree with you, but
the scene
I think that was the setup.
I'm like, what?
Maybe if it was executed better, where you have maybe the son screws up, and then he feels like I can't do anything right, and then the mom says, "Listen, it's okay," something to kind of set that up a little bit better.
But no, that setup was just terrible.
No, it was like, I hate you, mom. Oh, I still love you, son. He's like, fuck you, mom. Oh, don't you? I'll still get you candy. We'll go next door over, and then Eartha gets like, oh, unconditional love. That's their secret. I was like, I get your point. I think you made a really good point there. But it'd be hilarious if they actually do add that in there. Like, fuck you, mom. Unconditional love. That's the secret. That would have been hilarious. The unrated version.
The R-rated Ernest, yeah. but like that gives the kind of credit to Eartha Kitt's character and portrayal. Like, it was so hammy that she made that scene work, as terrible as that setup beforehand was.
I don't know if you can get that pulled off with another actress, though. Maybe you could, but with her in that part, I mean, she really does deliver on those scenes, especially when you see her get reunited with her family at the end. You see that there's a whole different side of her that you didn't get to see before. And that transition, you're like, oh, it makes sense now. We understand the bigger picture. So it's nice to see that performance from her. And I honestly do. I still love this movie. There's a lot of bad things I can say about you, and I've already picked it apart.
But it's
and there's a lot more too about that. But there's a lot more we can pick apart. But I don't want to make it seem the film sucks, but it's so bad it's good. I still think it's a very good movie. I think it's a very charming film. It's not for me. It's not so bad it's good. It's like, this is a good movie, and they know what they're working with. They know what they're doing, and they're sticking to that formula. But there is something very genuine about that story that seems that I connected with, and I still do to this day. I went as far as to tell my son, we got to watch this movie. I think you may actually like it. I don't think you'll love it, but I think you may actually like it. There's something I think you'll make connect with that. And he's like, all right, I'll watch it. I'm like, cool. And so it's just hopefully we get to watch it this week here. But I think that's what holds up in that regard.
I think this is what Hubie Halloween was missing.
Yes.
It was missing that charm and missing that. I mean, it was kind of telling somewhat the same story, but it was missing that. I think it did supernatural element, but that charm as well. that Jim Varney was able to portray.
Yeah.
And I think this is why it was great to kind of follow up with this. Like, this is the movie that If Hubie Halloween should have been and could have been, but it's Jim Varney. You can't,
Jim Varney, man, is a really underrated actor. He was also a comedian too at one point. I happened to see some clips of him. He's actually pretty funny in real life. But Jim Varney in general is so underrated, and I'm glad now that he has a cult following.
Yeah.
I mean, I happen to come across some videos and DVDs of his. Like, I had this one here, which is the triple feature of Ernest Goes to Scared Stupid and Goes to Jail, and I also have some VHSs as well too, which have a lot of the old commercials that helped start this whole career of Ernest fame. So I've yet to see that, but I know I have it up there somewhere, and I have some other ones as well too. Some of his more lesser known Ernest properties, which some I came across that I thought was a little wonky. Because I remember later on, as the years once he continued on, it just didn't have that same impact like his earlier work had on me, I should say. So, but regardless of that, I always revert back to the ones that I grew to like the most, which was this Goes to Jail, Scared Stupid, and Goes to Camp, and even Saves Christmas. So those are the films that I gravitate towards the most, and they still, for me, hold a charm, and they still hold up very well because I connected to those stories, and obviously you feel the same way too.
Exactly.
I don't know if there's anything else you want to add on to here. If
No,
you want to
that's
close
it, man. Like, I would definitely recommend the movie for the Halloween season, especially with our fans, with kids and families or nieces, nephews, whatever. Pop it in. Definitely, watch it. It's definitely watch. I definitely give it a high cheers.
I would give it a solid high cheers.
The flaws help with the charm of the movie.
I think so
high
too.
Cheers. Rip it apart, but freaking enjoy it.
Yeah, I think so too. But anyway, so those are our thoughts on the film here. If you have not seen this movie, I highly recommend you go check it out here and let us know what you guys think if you haven't seen it, and then come back to our review to this video here and let us know what you guys think. If you have, did you love it? Did you hate it? And if you did hate it, let us know what it is you hate about it. If you loved it, please share your thoughts on what it is you love about it. And if you have seen other Ernest films, let us know what you think of those films as well too. Which one if you want us to review? Yeah. And if you want us to review those, let us know in the comment section down below. And while you're here, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you hit that notification button, share, and like our videos as well, too. And help bring our numbers up to 1,000 subscribers. We have seen a slight increase, and we do appreciate all the new subscribers out there. So thank you very much for all that as well. And also follow us on our social media accounts. We have a Facebook and Instagram page simply at New Release Wednesdays, and on Twitter, the NRW. And you can follow myself on my social media accounts on Instagram, _Medina0585, and on Twitter, Rob Medina0585, and on Facebook, simply just Rob the Movie Guy. And my good buddy over there, where can they follow you, sir?
You can follow me on my Instagram and on my Twitter on David Is Disaster, and you can follow me on my personal Facebook page, David A.S. Tecado, where I post up everything else indie wrestling in the area, in the Southern Virginia, North Carolina area, and everything else pop culture and food. And usually see me get into it with Rob and my other NRW peeps. But if there's anything else that you guys like, if you love what me and Rob are doing here, please check out what the rest of the crew is doing. We have Patrick Michael Strange and the rest of the crew doing other reviews, everything from music, movies, and other stuff. In pop culture, definitely check those guys out. We're constantly putting up content on the daily for all of you guys. So please do us a favor, check those out as well. Besides that, like Rob, like you always say.
Till next time, everybody. Stay safe out there, and cheers.
Cheers. outside. Party ghouls, ghosts, and goblins. It's your the Fefa.
Pat, make sure you play this at the end of the video. Hello, my guys.
Fuck. That's all, folks.
All right, let's get into it.